the 5-minute time frame that we normally do, so the floor is open. Mr. Rassey will be running a little late. He has some out-of-town business guests that he's trying to. Okay, good.
Nobody else will come up, I'll start it out. My name is Mark House. And put this away. Most time people talk on the microphone,
Yeah.
it's too close, you can't hear them and hold it off.
Please give us your address as well, Mr. Faust.
It's not on? It's not on.
Better? Yep. Better. My primary comment is on the budget item, the St. Mary's Marina, and that's pages 86 through 88 in your all's packages. I did a real quick analysis of it, and it looks like in fiscal year 2024, the marina had earned revenue of $66,867 and operating expenses, that does not include depreciation, of $110,475. So that gives me a net operating loss of $43,608. According to the documentation, the city transferred $200,100 to the St. Mary's Marina. That's out, I guess, of the general fund. That's taxpayer money going to subsidize the marina. So at the end of 2024 fiscal year, there should have been $156,492 in carryover somewhere. And I don't see any evidence in the documentation here that that money was returned back to the general fund. Now in 2025, I see a total earned revenue of $91,200. I see total operating expenses of $201,377 for a net loss of $110,177 for fiscal year 2025. I also see that City Council subsidized the St. Mary's Marina to the tune of $110,176 for that year. I find it peculiar that the amount of money transferred from the general fund to the marina almost equaled exactly the operating loss for that time period. But nonetheless, what it really means is that the carryover for 2025 is $156,491. So I see for 2026, City Council has approved $88,855, another subsidy to the marina. So my question to you is, if there's $156,491 carryover, why are you putting more money into it? First question. Second question, the marina, it's operating at a net loss of every year. So how long is St. Mary's going to operate a marina that's at a net loss? Does City Council want to continue to subsidize at the rate of $80,000 to $100,000 every year to the marina? Seems to me the city is not in the business of running a marina. We're not very successful at it. Now, I appreciate that you all are doing something as far as trying to give the people in Camden County some reduced rates for the marina. That'll probably help a little bit. But when you're losing $100,000 a year on operating expenses, something's wrong. And I think City Council needs to look at it very seriously. And actually, I think one of you guys needs to take this as their personal thing and make sure that, and come up with a plan, either make it operational, make it at minimum, make it break even, or make some plans to do something else with it. Either turn it over to somebody who's a subject matter expert or whatever. But I'm sorry, but the marina doesn't help all the citizens of St. Mary's. That $100,000 can fix a whole lot of potholes. It can clean a whole lot of ditches. So I think that's something City Council really needs to take a look at. That's the one I keyed in on. There are probably some other ones in the budget that I didn't key in on, but I probably will in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Faust.
Are we responding at the end?
Well, since we've only got 30 minutes, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tom Canning, 410 Point Peter Place. The good news is, some of the things I wanted to say has already been said. So, but you know me, I'm not all that short on my words. Okay, so yes, St. Mary's Marina is getting $88,000 out of the general fund to keep it afloat. We all recognize your responsibility for a balanced budget, and this coming year, that's what you expect it's going to take, just to keep that line item balanced. But you need to find out a better solution other than taking it out of tax dollars. It needs to be something else, whether, I won't pretend to know the answer. If I knew the answer, I'd be a rich man today. The Aquatic Center, over the years, we've said this over and over, we've talked about the fact that it requires so much supplement to keep the lights on, to keep it open for a few months. This year, we're providing it $269,000. A lot of that has to do with some of the maintenance that you need to put in there, and you keep recovering from what old stories are about things not being done properly, but we've put a lot of money over the last few years, well intended or not, building up the capability of that, but never really recovering the value per ticket and differentiating between out-of-state and in-state users. Special facilities, in your budget, you do specify what special facilities are, but special facilities are Orange Hall and the Submarine Museum. Now, I'm not going to go into the history of the Submarine Museum. Most of you know it as well or better than I do, and I don't have any problem with decisions made 30 years ago to make that a good aspect of St. Mary's. I do have a problem with a few weeks ago when you approved under consent with no discussion to allow a 10-year contract with the Submarine Museum, giving them 9,000 square feet of prime space at no cost. Now, I realize they got a lot of building and architecture and all these other things, but that's what a business does. So anyway, I would really like you to rethink and take a look. And those of you that haven't read it in detail, please go to the contract, all right? 9,000 square feet in the middle of that property over there has value, but we're not recognizing it and we're paying for it. General government building expenditures, you've talked about this. We know that it's going to cost money to move in, more money than we ever expected when you first bought that property, because we thought it was in a lot better condition in so many other ways, but there's a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda stories going on. But right now, you're tagging $6 million, and it's been clearly asked by some of you council members that says, wait a minute, before you spend a nickel of that, let's see what the plan is, and let's make sure that we are actually doing what needs to be done rather than putting lipstick on, while doing more than we need to, okay? Legislative expenditures. I don't know whether anyone else has mentioned this before. I do have an issue, I do have a concern about the legislative expenditures being, there's $64,000, additional $64,000 on the legislative expenditures. And the rationale for that, and I haven't done my research to find out whether this is something that is norm in other communities or not, but I don't know that any of you ran for office with the expectation that the city taxpayers would be paying for your health insurance and your life insurance. And I think that's where the 64K comes in. And that 64K, if I understand correctly, a lot of the information, I don't have the details, I only know what I hear from you guys. A lot of that 64K only represents a small number of you that are taking advantage of that. Think about if all of you were taking advantage of that. Not that all of you are, some of you are gainfully employed and have your own system, but you know, that's a lot of money, and I think we're setting a stage, setting ourselves up for future expenditures that will really take a heavy bite. And I'm not sure I don't know that you're being overpaid your monthly fee too much. I'm not saying that at all. I just don't think that insurance was a part of the package or should be a part of the package. So I'm concerned about that. And the last thing, and like I said, I mentioned it already, Orange Hall and the sub-base. Neither one of those have a revenue stream. Neither one of them have the ability to generate a revenue stream. Over the years, and it's impossible for a citizen without doing a request to get a dollars and cents total, I know, my 5 minutes?
Yes.
Total amount of Orange Hall, money spent on Orange Hall during the last, what would you say, 10 years or more? A lot, we're talking about millions, okay? And we keep pouring money into that place and we don't have a plan, and I'm not sure that's the right thing to do. Submarine Museum is also a special facility. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Katie.
Good evening, Christine Adamo, 901 Ann Street. I think we've just heard some discrete details that are very important for the city to really deep dive into. I have a solution. None of you guys, as city councilors, have operating responsibility. Your oversight. You are supposed to be looking after what the taxpayers are clearly interested in preserving and improving. But it's not your responsibility to make sure we have a positive bottom line for any of the assets in our portfolio. The city has been operating like it's a venture capitalist. It invests, and it doesn't have the capability to do that. We don't have a management team with investment experience. They're doing the best they can. They're not the right people to manage a tight budget and an asset portfolio that's losing money. The aquatic center, the marina. How many cities actually subsidize a library? There's money for all of those. It shouldn't be our taxpayer money subsidizing losses in these assets. And it's really not your responsibility to step in and do that on a granular level. We have a management team for that. They are not equipped. They don't have that experience. I think it's time to really deep dive into what the needs of this city actually are with regard to managing the financial oversight and operations. Bring in the skills and the talent and the ability to look at those assets if we're going to keep them on our financial sheet as a revenue center and an expense. Bring somebody in that knows how to make it work and has a positive bottom line.
Anyone else? Okay. We'll close this public hearing, and we'll be back at 5:45 for the public hearing on Aldi's alcohol license.